Hello everyone, my name is Kumar and welcome back to my channel KUMAR Programming. In our previous video, we have learned about hooks. Mainly we have covered four type of hooks that are before, after, beforeEach and afterEach. As well as we have learned how to write them and how we can utilize. Further, we have covered our nested test suites as well as we have covered skipping and focusing test by using our skip and only keyword. In this video, we are going to learn about Sinon library, which is basically used for spying, mocking and stubbing functions. And I have seen most of the people are getting confused in between all of them. So here I'll try my level best to make you understand the basic concept of it with the practical demonstration. So now let's start. Before starting friends, I have a humble request to all of you. If you have not subscribed this channel so far, please subscribe it and don't forget to press the bell icon so you will get the notification of all of my upcoming videos. Because your each and every subscriptions gives me a lot of confidence to make the quality video for you. It's take a lot of time and a lot of effort to make these videos, so please support me and my channel by subscribing, sharing with the people who really need it. Now let's start. Now if you go for Sinon.js.org, its official website for this library, here you can see Sinon standalone test Spies, Stubs and Mocks for JavaScript, and it works with any unit testing framework. And if you go to the documentation, here you will see as of now the current version we are using 16. Here we have several topics, but mainly we are going to cover Spies, Stubs and Mocks, because these are very most important topics which are being used commonly whenever you are writing your test cases. So now let's understand what is the difference between all of them. First of all, spy, stub and mock, all of them are applied on function or method. Okay, let's first start with spy. A spy is used to observe and gather information about function call. Spy do not change the behavior of the functions being spied on. They simply record information about function invocation. And spies are useful for tracking whether a function was called and how many times it was called and what argument were passed into it. Okay, we will try to understand these differences in the practical demonstration. However, on the other side, stub is used to replace a function or method with a simplified implementation. Okay, it changes the behavior of the function. Stub allow you to control the behavior of a function during testing, making it return predefined values or execute specific code. And stub are typically used to isolate the code under test from external dependency, like such as database calls or HTTP request. And on the other side, mock is a combination of spy and stub both. Okay, so mock is having a functionality of spy as well as stub, but there is a syntactical difference in between stub and mock. It not only observes the function's behavior but can also control it by specifying expected behavior and returns value. It records the information about the function as well as it changes the behavior of the functions. Mock are typically used when you want to verify that function was called with a specific argument and make it return a specific value. Okay, spying just used to gather the information about the function invocation, and stub to change the behavior of the function, and mock gather the information about the function call as well as change the behavior of the function. It would be more clear once we will see all these differences in our practical demonstration. So now let's flip to the Visual Studio. Now here I'm going to create a new file as spy stub and mock.spec.ts, and I'll copy the code from our previous video from hooks, and I'll remove this only from hooks, and here I'll mention spy stub and mock tests. Okay, so in order to use spy stub and mock, we are required to install Sinon library. So here npm install Sinon, and we will install its type as well. Okay, types, because we are writing in TypeScript. Now if you see your package.json file, here it's installed as a dependency, right? But we are required to install it as a dev dependency. So now we will install it as a save dev as a dev dependency. Now it's moved from dependency to dev dependency. Okay, This NYC also required to install for the dev dependency only, but we will take care once we will discuss about the reporting and code coverage section. Now let's go to this Spy Stub mock.spec.ts. Now first of all, here we are going to import our Sinon library. So import Sinon from Sinon. Okay. So initially we will see the spy, how we can spy on a function. So let's create a variable as spy. Let spy, and that would be type of Sinon spy. Okay. If you see, Sinon spy is automatically imported from Sinon library here. Now see here in our describe section, we are writing our test cases to test this add functionality, right? But here we are not checking that how many times this function is being called and what all the parameters are being passed over here. So that we can check with the use of spy. Now let's create a spy on this add function. Syntax is very simple. Spy equal to Sinon.spy, and inside that we are spying on add method from calc object. So first of all we will give this calc, and then we will give the method name, and method name is add, right? So now we have created a spy on this add method, and in our assert section, and we know we are writing our test cases in three sections: arrange, act, and assert. Okay, so here I'm provide basically arrange section is to provide the data, act section is to take the action, and assert is to write our expectation, write our asserts. Okay, so now here what is our expectation? Expect this spy dot called once with parameter 2 and 3, right? Because see here we are passing the parameter 2 and 3, so we are passing the parameter over here 2 and 3 to be true. This is our expectation, right? And when we are using spy, stub, or mock, we have to restore them in order to avoid any issues on our actual function. Okay, so here is spy dot restore. That's it. Very simple, isn't it? So here we are spying on a method, add method from calc object, and we are required to check how many times this function is being called and what are the parameters are being passed over here. Okay. Similarly, we can do for the subtract. So I'll copy this line over here in the arrange section, and here we are passing the method as a subtract, and we can expect here expect spy dot called once with parameter 5 comma 3, right? Since see here we are passing the parameter 5 and 3, so same we are checking here as well to be true, and here spy dot restore. Got it? So it's very simple, right? Now let's run this test, npm run test, and if you see here our npm run test command is given over here already, that we have covered in our previous video. So if you see, our should return sum and should return subtract, both test case are being passed. Okay, now suppose that here we are passing 2 and 4, right? So what will happen, this expectation should be 4, 2, and this should be 6, right? But here we are checking called once with 2 and 3, so this is going to be fail. Now let's see that. Now see here, expected is true but actual is false. So here the actual is false, but we are expecting is this value should be true, right? However, if we could give here 4, then this test case is going to be pass. See, now our test case is being passed. These NYC report is creating confusion. For the time being, we are going to remove this, and we will see in detail in our upcoming videos whenever we are going to discuss our NYC reporting and code coverage. So let me remove it for now. So I'll put it as a test 1, and here in our test I'll remove this. Okay, now we can run our npm run test command, and we won't be able to see our report, so we can focus on test cases. So now see, both of our test cases, sum and subtract, is getting passed. So now we understood how we can spy on a function and how we can write the assertion for spy. Okay, now we will see stub. Now let's see the scenario where we can use stub. Let's go to our calculator class in our source folder. Here I'm going to write a function as a get random value. which is going to return a number. So this function is going to return a random value in between 1 to 10. So here I'll write math.random and I'll multiply by 10 plus 1 and I'll take the floor value of this number. I'm multiplying by 10 over here because it's going to return a decimal value. So here math dot floor, right, of the entire value, and I'll make it return. Okay, so this get random value is going to return a random value in between 1 to 10. Now I'm going to call this function over here in our add function. Here const, I'll take a variable as a c and I'll this dot get random value. Okay, now I'm going to return a plus b plus c. Okay, right, now we have to write the test case for our this function, and if you see here, this get random value function is returning a value and that value is having dependency on result of add functions. Okay, now let's run these test cases. You will see now our add test case is going to be fail. Now see, expected is 6 but actual value is coming 11. Why? Because this we are adding this random value in our result. Okay, so what we can do, we can stub this function and we can return some fixed value and we can test the functionality for add function. Okay, so now let's see how we can do that. Here we are going to create a variable for stub. Let stub, it would be type of Sinon stub. So if you see, Sinon stub is automatically imported from Sinon library. Now in our add, here I'll write stub. So what I'm going to stub here, Sinon.stub. Similarly, we have to write as we have written in our spy. So here we are going to stub calc and the function name is get random value. Okay, now if you see here, we can return the value in stub. Okay, so here I'm going to return 2. Okay, now what will happen, whenever we are going to call this function add, then inside this add function, this get random value function is going to be stub with value 2. Okay, this add function is going to return 2, 4 and this 2, so total it's 8, right? So now we are not having the dependency, we have removed our dependency on our get random value functions. Now it doesn't matter what it is being returning. Okay, so we have changed the behavior of the function, right? Earlier this function was returning random value. Now from the stub we are returning it a fixed value as 2. Okay, which is going to be passed inside this add function and gets calculated the result as 8. Okay, and in our assert section already we have written our assertion as a result to be equal to 8. And finally we have to write our stub.restore in order to avoid the functionality from the actual function. Okay, whenever we are using spy, stub and mock, we have to always restore. Now let's see if our test case is working as expected. Now it should be working. See, now our should return some test case is getting passed. Okay, so whenever testing the functionality of a function and that function is dependent on some other function, in that case we can stub those dependent functions and we can return some fixed value from them. So this is how that we can use the stub. I hope that you are understanding how we can use spy and how we can use stub and in which scenario that we are using them. Now we'll see mock, which is a combination of spy and stub both. In order to illustrate mock, let me create a function inside our calculator class. Here I'm going to write a function log message, and here I'm passing message as an input parameter to be type of string, and inside this function I'll write console.log message. Simple, right? And we are not going to return anything from this function. Now let's call this function here, this dot log message, and we are going log here, logging add function. Okay, and similarly we are going to call same in our subtract function as well. Okay, So here logging subtract function, right? So see, this function is calling independently, and add function is not having any dependency on this log message. So we can use here mock, and we can mock this function. Okay, now let's see how we can do that. Here let's create a variable as mock. Let mock, which would be type of Sinon mock. Now let's mock syntax is a bit different. So first of all, we are required to create the expectation. Okay, let expectation equal to mock dot expects. What we are expecting here, this log message is calling exactly once, called exactly once with argument. Let's see what was the argument here. Logging add function, right? With the argument logging add function. So now if you see here, this mock is behaving as spy. Here we are checking this log message is calling exactly once with the argument logging add function. Okay, so this act like spy. Okay, but the syntax is different. Here we can write returns as well. However, this function is not returning anything, so we are not going to call this return. Okay, and what we have to do in our assert section, we have to write our expectation dot verify. So whatever we have expected here in our arrange section, that we need to verify here. That's it. Okay, and here finally we have to mock dot restore. Okay, that's it. Now similarly we will do for our subtract function as well. If you see, we have written our log message for the subtract, so we need to write our test cases. So I'm going to call this and take in our arrange section here log message logging subtract function. Okay, and this expectation, and here we can write our expectation dot verify. Okay, very simple. And finally we need to write our mock dot restore. Okay, now let's run this test and pm run test. Okay, so here we are getting error as a can't read property of undefined reading expects. Okay, so reading expects and this is undefined. Okay, we are missing here to instantiate. So here we will write our mock equal to Sinon.mock, and what we have to mock, we have to mock our calc object. Okay, now this mock should be instantiated. Similarly we can write this code here as well. Now let's run it once again. Now if you see here, our both of the test cases is getting passed, should return sum and should return subtract. Okay, now one thing, if you notice, we are calling these lines again and again here, right? Spy dot restore, mock dot restore. So what we can do, we can remove these lines from here, and we can call this after each, right? So let me call this in after each, and we can remove it from here. Okay, we can remove it from here as well. Okay, and if you see this mock Sinon mock also we are calling in both of the functions. So what we can do, we can remove it from here, and we can call inside our before each hook. Okay, right, every time we are going to instantiate. So we can remove this function from here as well. Okay, so now it's a bit simple. And here there could be possibility, if might be we are not using our stub or spy in any function. Like see here in our subtract we are using spy and we are using mock, but we are not using stub. Okay, but after it this stub is going to be restore. Okay, so at that time it's not instantiated. So what we can do here, we can check if spy is there, then we have to store. Okay, and similarly here we can check if stub is there, then we can stub.restore, and if mock is there, then we can do the mock.restore. Now let's format the code, Control A, Control KF. Now code is formatted. Now let's run it once again. So if you can see here, our should return sum and should return subtract, both of the test cases is getting passed. Now let's quickly debug this application and see what exactly happening behind the scene for our spy, stub and mock. So here I'll put a debug point in our test case for some functions, and then I'll put a debug point in our calculator class. So here I'll put a debug point for add method, as well as I'll put for the get random value function and log message. Okay, now let's debug this quickly. I'll use JavaScript debug terminal. Now if you see here, my JavaScript debug terminal is ready. So here I'll run my command npm. So here I'll run my command npm run test. Yeah, so my debugger came here. Now let's go one by one here. So if you see here, we are spying our add function from calc object. Okay, and here we are stubbing our get random value function and returning the value 2. Now let's move ahead, and here we are mocking our log message function. Now let's move ahead. Now our actual function is going to call, right? Now our debugger will move to our calculator.ts file. See, now it moved to the calculator.ts file. Now you will see it's not going to call this function. This is the actual function and it's not going to call that. Okay, so see, so our debugger didn't go there. Okay, now if you see, we have stubbed this get random value function as well, right? So this is also not going to be called. Okay, see, we got the value as 2, right? Because we are returning the value as a 2 from the stub. If you see here in our function, we are returning the value 2 and we have stubbed this value. Okay, so that's the reason here we are getting the return value as 2. Okay, so now here we are changing the behavior of the function. Okay, so we are not calling the actual function, we are mocking and we are stubbing the function. Okay, now if you return the value, now it's got failed because of timeout. So let's change the timeout here in our test function, this timeout, let's give around 30 seconds. Okay, let's run it once again, npm run test. Okay, so I'll run it quickly. Yep, if you see here, our both of the test cases is being passed. So now I hope you understood the behavior of spy, stub and mock and how we can use them. I'll push this code to the GitHub and provide the link to the description so you can take the reference from this code. In the next section, we are going to learn about asynchronous testing by using our async await keyword. And friends, there is a humble request: if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe it and don't forget to press the bell icon so you will get the notification of all of my upcoming videos. That's all for the day. I'll see you in my next video. Till then, have a good day.